Hey everybody, welcome to Goshen Prepping. I'm off at a world's tournament for martial arts. However, I'm a Krav Maga instructor, a certified instructor, and Krav Maga is probably the most or close to the most perfect self-defense martial arts there is. And when it comes to fighting, either you're a fighter and you know how to do things correctly, or if you're not a fighter, you get these conceptions probably from Hollywood or your friends or whatever comes natural to you, which is always a bad thing. So Bob and I are going to go through and show you some really excellent self-defense techniques and how you want to fight if you're not a fighter, because I imagine most of the people on the channel who watch this are not fighters, and there's certain things you'll do right off the bat. If you do it incorrectly, which you probably will, you're probably going to break your hand. So Bob and I, we're going to show you a few techniques. So first, a couple medical things to understand when it comes to punching, why punching is probably the last thing you want to do, especially if you're not a fighter. Even if you are a fighter, punching is kind of dangerous. There's actually a couple different types of fractures. As doctors, we love to name certain breaks over things, like this is called a Colles fracture, this is a Smith's fracture, etc. When people fighting, by the way, punching someone, you want to be able to punch right here with these knuckles. So as you punch out, you want to make sure those knuckles are going towards somebody. Because what happens is most people will punch like this, and these knuckles will come into play, and you'll usually break those bones right off the bat in your hand. And in medicine, we call that a street fighter's fracture. Now, in our modern times, they call it street fighter's fracture and a boxer's fracture. Back in the day, if you broke these two bones, it was a street fighter's fracture, but since boxers know how to punch, they would still even break those bones, these ones. So street fighters are these. If they broke these bones, because you know how to fight, that's how you punch with, and you break those bones, they would call it a boxer's fracture. So my point being is this: even though now we call them all boxers, street fighters fractures the same, punching more than likely will break your hand. And if you break your hand, you're in deep trouble. Because especially if the fight even escalates to something beyond hands, like weapons and stuff, that hand, more than likely you're probably punching with your dominant hand. That's the same hand you're probably going to be using a weapon with. Forget it. So don't even think about punching at all. Punching is the last thing you want to do. So what do? Well, in martial arts, there's all kinds of things we teach. We teach what's called a knife hand, ridge hand, back fist. All of those are fun. They're great. But nothing beats what's called simply just a palm heel. In other words, watch this. If I'm going to punch and I go across, all the impact is going on these hands, then down the arm. The hand bones are probably what's going to break. So just get rid of those hand bones. Instead, bring your hand up. So in martial arts, we do a palm heel like this, pop, okay? And it's putting all the axis, all the load right down the arm. Now, I still don't recommend this in fighting. If you haven't fought before, in fact, I always tell my beginner intermediate belt students, don't even do this. Even advanced students, if you're gonna break a board, just put your hands up in the air. Because I'll tell you, if you're gonna punch someone like this and your hands hit the forehead, have you ever jammed your hands like that? It hurts really bad. So just keep your hands up. It's not gonna change the way your load is. So put your hands straight up, and there you can actually punch into what you need to, as basically all you're doing is very quickly and powerfully outstretching your arm. That's called a palm heel. And I would recommend that you do nothing but, practically speaking, palm heels in case somebody is trying to come against you. Again, maybe you're a fighter, maybe you've done a lot of this before and you want to stick with punching, to each their own. But again, if you break that hand and it goes to weapons, especially, you're in deep trouble. Or if you break that hand and the person's not unconscious, well, now you're going to depend on your left hand, which obviously still works too. So palm heel is the way to go. Now with old Bob here, I'm going to show you some different places you're going to want to do these techniques to cause the most pain and the most damage. And by the way, the number one punch you should do, the number one thing you should do, if somebody's coming to attack you, end the fight immediately with just one hit. And that one hit is the throat. Now, even if you're a puncher, punching the throat is not the best thing in the world. I mean, it gives you a smaller target. You may break your hand. And palm healing the throat, you can do what's called a horizontal palm heel, maybe. Now, it doesn't work very well either. Instead, if you just take your hand, palm heel, and open it up, and just simply go like this, bam. So good old Bob's like, hey, come over here, give me your money. Bah, and nail him. Whoops, almost knocked Bob over. I just got him at a yard sale for 75 bucks. Now I have two Bobs. This thing's great. $300 and some. I love yard sales because you can really pick up a lot of prepper stuff. So I bought him. I'm going to clean him up and put him in one of my schools. But anyways, as you come through with your hand open, quickly, as fast as you can, and powerful as you can, jab it right in their throat. It may break their trachea. It may put them down on the floor. In fact, there's a good chance of it. congratulations, you just ended the fight with one hit. Maybe you didn't have time for that. Maybe they have a neck guard on, I don't know. But now you want to do palm heals. When it comes to palm heals on the face, there's certain places you're going to want to do that. And obviously, don't do this stuff on people because they don't like it. Don't assault anybody. That's the kind of stuff I have to tell my kids all the time in martial arts because they like to do these things on each other. No, it's bad news. So stick to this as only a self-defense. All right, so with Bob, let me show you some of the vulnerable areas that you can hit. Having a palm heel on the nose, straight out or up a little bit, works very well. It'll break their nose. It'll make this whole area swollen. If you need to, palm heel into the chin. And there's a possibility it'll knock them unconscious, by the way, if you do it hard enough. But if anything, it's going to break some teeth. It's going to make them think twice, because that's the whole thing about fighting sometimes. It's not necessarily to incapacitate them, but they'll give up on you. Right here, these are called the zygomatic arches. They're the cheekbones. They snap like a twig. A palm heel here on either side will break it very easily. Then that whole eye area will swell up as well. I already mentioned the throat, having your hand open on the throat. You can cuff the ears, palm heels on the ears, and do that as well. And then, of course, if we want to have weapons, which we'll talk about in a second, there's other areas on the body too we'll come back to. So all these areas are excellent. The face is a very vulnerable area. So let me tell you quickly, if somebody's coming after you and they know that your face is a vulnerable area, you want to be able to protect it. Do you protect the ears? Do you protect the throat? Do you protect the face? If you bring your arms up like this, and you'll see people doing this, you can take punches and they're not going to be able to hit that vulnerable area very easy. Even if they come up in the front, you can close it off and you can protect yourself. So something else really you want to do is be able to protect yourself too as you're inflicting pain and damage on those areas. So now let's talk about weapons. And maybe you're in a situation, obviously you're not going to pull a weapon on someone unless they pull a weapon on you. You still have to obviously obey the law, and that would be like assault with a deadly weapon charges on you. One of my first weapons that I love and I carry everywhere I go is a tactical pen. I'll be honest with you, I just love writing with it. It's a well-writing pen. And I'll be honest with you, even though I have a ridiculous amount of these, and I make sure all of my adult kids and my wife carries these wherever they go too, I want you to understand that this is actually not the easiest weapon to use. I mean, here, you'll notice it has that nice little tough edge there. It's good for grabbing. And this thing they call a glass breaker or ice pick is great for situations like in his throat, bam, right here, is going to pop right into his carotid artery or his jugular, and it's going to make him start bleeding out very quickly. But even if that's not the case, if you do this anywhere, and stabbing, by the way, if you stab someone, is not about like stab, oh, get back. It is about stab, 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 and you don't stop. You keep going until they stop coming after you. Then you call the police and run, because understand that if you keep doing it and they're on the ground, you're going to be held liable. Because when it comes to self-defense is you trying to get out of the situation. But you know, if you're walking off and they're trying to fight you, well, I'm walking off, I don't want to have self-defense, but you know what, you're ugly, and if you come over here and follow me, I'm going to kick your butt. That's challenging them, and that's going to go to court because it's no longer self-defense. You need to defend yourself as quick as possible, then get out of there and call the police. Okay, all right. So tactical pens are great. However, there's a big problem with tactical pens, and since it is just long and cylindrical, if there's blood on your hands, granted it does have this area that helps you grip, weapons slip. They slip all the time. And that happens with knives as well. And so another weapon I keep with me pretty much wherever I go is my Smith & Wesson knife. It's a little dirty. This literally lives with me in all my pockets and my pants and stuff. Very well used for all kinds of things. I mean, preppers like them for cutting cords, whatever they need to. I like it for cutting people if I need to. This is a weapon. And the reason I like this Smith & Wesson weapon is because it has a seatbelt cutter, whatever, has the glass break thing on there, whatever. I mean, you could use that if you wanted to. You're using the wrong end of the knife if that's the case though. But the reason I like this is because number one, it does have a rubber grip to it. And secondly, look at these little grooves on here, and it makes it so you can grip it very well. This is how you hold a knife, by the way. In case you haven't done it before, this video is not specifically about knife training, but I'll show you a couple of techniques. You want to have it so your hands are through the grip, held nice and tight. You want to have it so the thumb is right here, right here. That is the proper technique for holding a knife. And a knife, no matter what anybody tells you, is not for stabbing. It's not about stabbing. People get stabbed all the time and they keep going. Because if I come up to Bob, stop it, stop it, stop it. I don't want to stab my Bob. And I stab him, he's probably going to still keep coming after me. Granted, he may be a little incapacitated on that specific area with the musculature, but knives are about, here, come here, Bob. Knives are about doing this. You take it, you stab, twist, slice. Stab, twist, slice. And you do that so literally it exposes their organs. You know, if I went low enough, it actually dump out their intestines, etc. Slicing is what knives are all about. And we train with swords too. In fact, on this tournament we're going to, my son actually trains very well with a katana. That is not a just little training thing. It is a sharp katana which will slice you in half. But the key is for slicing. And the first sometimes people get a knife like a katana, they'll hack with it. Knives are for slicing. They're for slicing, always. So even if you don't want to do the stab, twist, and slice, then just do the slice. It's better than nothing. That's what knives are for. But now again, if we're talking about some blood's going to get on here, which, you know what, if you're slicing somebody, some blood's going to get on here, you've got to have a technique or something that's going to make it so it doesn't slip out of your hands, because then, you know what, it becomes somebody else's knife. So another knife a lot of people use, and not necessarily this specific kind of model, but one that has a ring on it. And the reason being is it's a holder, because this knife, even though it has grips to your fingers too, it's made so that comes on there and you grip it. Even though personally I'm not much on having a curved blade, I like different knives, that's why I have this one. But nevertheless, having it so it has the ring on there, people like doing all these like little flippy, spinny things and stuff on them. That's fine. You want to do a flippy, spinny things, cool. I like to do things tactically. Even if blood gets on here, even if somebody hits you and it falls a little bit, that ring keeps it so it's intact, so it won't slip out of your hands. And so now you can cut, slice, and do whatever you need to be able to take care of yourself. So here's the thing, guys. Listen, when it comes to fighting, when it comes to somebody attacking you, nobody's asking you to spend years and years and years practicing some kind of martial arts or Krav Maga. I mean, obviously we should. We should. But if you want to get some stuff from this video, I would at least take some time, practice doing your palm heels, because you want to have it so it's straight out, palm heel, Bob, and make it so you can do whatever you need to and work on your precision and movements. Because I've mentioned before, it's not about making them better than you. Bob, he's a much stronger guy than I am. I could beat him all day long and it's not going to break his bones. It's not about that. It's about making it so inconvenient for him that they'll give up. And studies show that if you do this for 60 seconds, whatever you do, try not to give up. After 60 seconds, they usually will. Not because they're in pain, but it's because they're like, you know what, you're not worth it. And that's usually what happens. So then secondly, have a weapon, one that you can actually have a grip on. Go for things like carotids, go for stab, twist, slice. Practice all these techniques. Even if you don't have a bob, just in the midair, practice all these techniques over and over again. And you'd be truly amazed that if you just take a few minutes every day, but do it every single day, practice these, how better you'll become. You'll become much, much better. Because look, I mean, for me, I'm this week at a world tournament trying to get a world title, actually 6 world titles, even at my age, even the fact that I actually have medical conditions too. So don't take it ever as in you can't do this stuff. I don't care if you're in a wheelchair, you practice these things, practice it. Because you think in a wheelchair, somebody's going to not steal your food or steal your money. You need to practice, get in shape and work on this stuff and don't give up. That's the key. Because once you give up on this stuff, why do you prepare in the first place? Why do you prep? Because as soon as something happens, it's the other people you have to worry about. That's the dangerous stuff too. All right, anyways, I'm at the World's competition this week. Next week, hopefully I get a world title. I didn't get here by simply just making it happen. I practiced hours a day to the point where literally sometimes I could barely walk. I'm not kidding you. My family's like, oh my gosh, what's wrong with you? That's what you got to do. You got to do whatever you can. Don't go quietly into that good night. You need to press on, especially as preppers. Because if you want to get to the end of whatever situation that's coming, you're never going to do it by sitting around. You got to practice. So I hope this video helped you, everybody. Put it in the comments below if there's other techniques you do or if it did help you. And we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.